Now we're going to go into stage 6. So again, this is for posterior cortical atrophy, dementia, but some of this you may see in your own person because some of these things do bleed into other dementias, where my mom had some Lewy body things and some other things that would show up, Alzheimer's things that would show up, even though PCA was her main dementia. Stage 6, so stage 6, it's cognitive is getting very severe at this point. So they are more global in nature with multiple aspects of perception, memory, language, attention, decision-making abilities are affected. Vision remains the most pronounced impairment. Again, it's not really vision. It is the discussion between these two guys that no longer work. There are widespread impairments and they cover many different things now. So, and again, this is where things do sometimes get very similar to other dementias. We're really starting to, everything kind of gets a little similar in some ways. And again, some people will not present any of these things and some people will. So they will be literally totally blind at this point, basically. They show inconsistent recollection of events, plans, anything, halting, non-fluent speech with difficulty retrieving many words and the production of sound-based speech errors. Experience changes in sleep patterns, so they may sleep more during the day, become restless at night, increasing trouble controlling their bladder, their bowels, all of that stuff, becoming quieter, withdrawn, sometimes sitting in a stooped over manner, appearing disengaged from the environment unless addressed directly. Very true for her. Experience behavior and personality changes, including obsessions, compulsions, suspicions, delusions, such as believing that their caregiver is an imposter. We don't really have any of that stuff necessarily. I don't think I can think of any time when that's happening. Still some delusions and hallucinations, but nothing in that way. Having difficulty communicating, expressing verbal, visual stimuli becomes very difficult. Experience continued deterioration of sensory functions, complete loss of response to touch, which is definitely true for her. So you can be rubbing her arm and she has no idea that that's happening. The reason I know all of this is because we track everything that happens. We've been doing that for a few years now. So we have created a template that you can use as well. You can get it at disruptdementia.com. It's free. Download it and you can start using it as well. It's great to know where you are and super helpful when you go see the doctor because you can tell them exactly what's been happening since the last time you've seen them, including how many falls have they had, anything that's changed, all that good stuff. I definitely grab that. Also, of course, like, comment, subscribe. All of that really helps us reach more people and help more amazing humans like you. And definitely, as I'm going through, if any of this is relatable, comment, let us know. We want to hear about it. She started being like up a lot. Like she would wake up like every hour overnight. So, and then some nights she'd dead sleep through the night. She was not somebody who would like toss and turn. She would like get out of bed and start walking around, hallucinating and talking to herself and talking to whoever she thought was there. The assisted living facility did a great job. They really worked with us. They were amazing partners, really wanted to help, really became partners, not just the leadership who were amazing, but also the staff. We had such brilliant staff, helped us manage this as the best that they could. They allowed us to put in a motion detector so that when mom would get up in the middle of the night, they would have a pager that would start beeping. And so they could like run because you'd have to, because unfortunately at this time, really bad things could happen. She could fall. She could have a toileting issue, not in the bathroom because understanding what a bathroom was not real anymore. So they would do their best to get there and help her. So the staff was amazing. However, they can only do so much just because they just don't have the capacity, the training, the tools to manage some of the things as things progress. So we started getting a little more anxious about getting her into long-term care in Ontario. I remember I would go and pick her up because we would drive her to group. So it was like things like that, like, they wouldn't take care of certain things just because they just didn't, not like they didn't want to help us more. It's just that they just didn't have the capacity to do some of the things that a long-term care would do. Anyway, so I went to pick her up to bring her to group and she was like, she would be dead asleep in the common area. Just people are around and she is dead sleeping on the couch, and I would have to like shake her, like really wake her up. So sleeping at definitely odd hours was becoming normal and is very normal now. Sleeping a lot is normal now. I would say that she like, I could like decipher like maybe 50% of what she was saying. Sometimes I didn't know what we were talking about. I could still kind of find the thread though. I could understand what her goal was and where we were. Where now, I don't know what's happening half the time. To her reflection in the window, she was like, what can I do for you? Like, it's herself. She became much more withdrawn and incommunicative. This is when we did get her into long-term care. So this is much more now. She is very quiet most days. Then there are days when all of a sudden she's not, and she's still very funny. She has a good sense of humor. I can still crack jokes and she somehow knows they're funny. Even using my very sarcastic, dry humor, she still can get it sometimes, most times I would say. She likes it when I'm a little saucy with my humor, like, if I still will say like, well, we don't want your butt hanging out, and she finds that, she giggles about things like that. But definitely a lot quieter. She has, my sister was sitting with her and she like was literally talking and just fell asleep like halfway through a sentence that made no sense, but yeah, like fell asleep. A lot of that is what happens. A lot of times we have to feed her physically because she no longer understands anything. And then some days she does. So they make her food. The long-term care makes her food that is hand food. So if they're having chicken and, vegetables or whatever, they'll put hers on a sandwich. So because she can still, if you put the sandwich in her hand, she can still eat it. Not every day, sometimes not every week, but we try to maintain as much of that as we can. And they've been pretty good about it, but we're definitely finding more and more at this point that's difficult. So yeah, we have Gia now, who Gia is amazing. She was from our assisted living facility, and she comes to see mom 2 times, sometimes 3 times a week, sometimes 4, depending on the week, but definitely 2 times a week. She has a shift, 3 hours with mom, where she engages her. She's brilliant, does all these very interesting, creative things with her, and takes her outside, gets her walking, and then, stays for a meal, whether it's lunch or dinner, depending on her shift, and will make sure mom gets her meal. And she is very good at helping us maintain as much autonomy as possible. But that's not always every day. We can't do that every day. So yeah, Gia will send us messages and let us know exactly what happened. She's brilliant at that, telling us step by step sort of how the day went. And yeah, it's really hard at this point. It's hard. So toileting issues, I mean, she can't go to the bathroom by herself. Like, that's impossible at this point. We are fully 2 people have to be with her basically to use the toilet. A lot of times we don't even make it to the toilet anymore, so that is also difficult. No longer walks on her own. She just can't. They do try, so they still, which is great, this is a long-term care home, they try to get her to walk, so they'll have sort of someone right behind with a wheelchair and then 2 people on either side of her trying to get those muscles going, I guess. So they do still do that. Literally, Pam, or maybe it was Gia, I can't remember now, went, and that was happening when they got there. She's fully in a wheelchair though, basically wheelchair bound, and we now have a rolling chair, like a throne that goes over the toilet, so you can roll it. So basically it's like you can get her to stand and she'll hold on to the bar and you say, don't move. And you roll the wheelchair out and then you roll this chair in and then you sit her down and you take the pants down and everything, sit her down and then roll that over top of the toilet. That's how that happens now. like if you hand her a toothbrush, she no longer knows what that is, where before muscle memory would kick in and she could brush her own teeth. She often will, even on the toilet, she'll with toilet paper will be dabbing like her arms, and because she just doesn't know what's happening. And so, she definitely is sleeping a lot more and like is stooped and sort of like this a lot of the times, like asleep in her chair. If you aren't engaging directly with her, she doesn't understand what's happening around her. She doesn't know why these people are there. She sometimes knows there's people, sometimes doesn't know there's people. Like she doesn't know what's happening. She will think like, she'll be like patting her arm and thinking it's a dog. Like she'll be like, oh, you're so cute, like to her own arm or to my foot, like to anything. She'll grab my foot off the ground sometimes and I just let her and she'll say, he's so cute. It's my foot. Very disengaged more often than not. And a lot of times now it's hard to spend a lot of time with her because she really doesn't know who we are anymore. And that's hard. And also just, she's scared a lot and will say, I want to go home. And has even made comments like, without saying the words, because she doesn't put the words together, but I understand what she's saying. She'll say like, when is this over? And I'll say like, when am I leaving? And she'll say, yeah. And that's really hard just because if my mom knew that she was saying that to me, she'd be heartbroken. But she just doesn't know who I am anymore and often just wants to be sleeping rather than spending time with us. So, okay. Stage 7, this is when we are in very severe. It's very severe at this point. So this is in the very late stages. Problems experienced by people with PCA may resemble much more like just a regular Alzheimer's disease or dementia, any type of dementia. They kind of start really blending at this point. So this is when they lose the ability to respond to their environment, carry on a conversation, no longer be able to control their own movements. They may still say words or phrases, but they may not make a lot of sense. Inability to smile or, make any kind of facial, but yet they could still maybe laugh. At this stage, individuals need help with much more of their daily personal care, perhaps doing everything for them at this point, which we're basically there. They may also lose the ability to hold their head up, sit without support, that kind of thing. Reflexes are very abnormal. Muscles are much more rigid, right? Like all of that is much more. Swallowing may become more difficult. Getting adequate nutrition is going to be hard because they are having trouble eating. All of this stuff is just difficult. And so we are at a point where, 2 weeks ago, I think it was when I was there, she was like, we were at lunch and she was eyes closed, but yet she would start mumbling words to no one. I was on this side of her, but she would turn this way and say things, which I don't know what she was saying. And then trying to get her to eat was really hard. So I did have to spoon feed her. Like I had to feed her, which was really hard. That was probably one of the hardest things I ever did, just because, just seeing her like that and having to feed her, it was just very difficult. It was very difficult. And again, that's not every day, because some days she's more cognitive and can feed herself. Still, she's not necessarily making any sense or anything, but it's hard. Pam's had to do that as well. It's been very hard for her. It's very hard. And even Gia, I think it's hard for her. Gia's fallen in love with Mom, and it's very, very sweet. And we're very, very lucky to have her. And I know that some of this is very hard for her too, just because she's seen her on this journey and knew her, not necessarily before, but knew her in a different way. And this is difficult for all of us. And mom's family, it's hard. Her ability to have a conversation is just basically impossible. Like, that's not a thing that really happens anymore. So that's sort of where we are now. That's where we are. And so I don't know what that means, but that's where we are. And I hope this helps. If any of this is relatable, please comment. Like, comment, subscribe. Of course, we want to be able to help as many people as we can that are going through this. Don't forget to grab the tracker. That is at disruptdementia.com. That's how I know everything that I'm telling you, because of that tracker. And again, it helps with the doctor's visits, which of course we don't really do anymore because there's no point. I did do a video on that as well. We have lots of videos, so please feel free to go through our library of videos on YouTube and watch whatever will help you. So those are the stages. So we did 3 videos, stage 1, 2, 3, stage 4 alone, stage 5, 6, 7 in this video is kind of a lot. I maybe should have broken it up. Maybe I still will. So you may kind of get this halfway through. I don't know what's going to happen. But anyways, that's it, guys. And like I said, please like, subscribe, comment. Definitely let us know if any of this is relatable and what your journey's like.